No drugs, no alcohol, and no gambling. That's all haram. So can we beat Fallout New Vegas without breaking any of the laws of Islam? Fallout New Vegas is quite possibly one of the most sinful places in all of gaming. They have gambling, prostitution, slavery, murder, and extortion. This is without speaking on the fact that the entire gameplay loop is about killing, sneaking, stealing, and looting. No more dilly-dallying. Let's begin by explaining the rules of the challenge and Islam. Islamic law actually comes from two main sources: Sharia, derived from the holy text of the Quran, and the 5 pillars of Islam from the Hadith. We'll try our best to abide by these rules as best we can in Fallout New Vegas to have the perfect halal run. The 5 pillars serve as a foundation for the faith of Islam, and they are as follows: Shahada, the declaration of faith; Salah, the daily prayer; Zakat, charitable giving; Psalm, fasting during Ramadan; and Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca. Although we cannot actually follow Hajj, as there is no good place to pilgrimage in New Vegas, and if I dared to say that New Vegas itself was Mecca, I fear I might be shot. Before we dive headfirst into this halal wasteland though, a quick note from our sponsor today. Me. If you enjoy watching insane religiously imposed challenge runs, or watching me take on an entire franchise worth of games, and you want to help me keep making them, consider joining the Patreon, where I'll be doing some exclusive behind the scenes videos, dropping my scripts, and doing community polls for voting on the next video. Your support there lets me spend way more time on editing, writing, and apparently finding Quranic justification for shooting ghouls. Links down below. Thank you, seriously. Let's get into the game. Starting off, we already have to talk about a very important rule of Sharia. Never duck a fade. The game starts out with this suit-wearing bastard Benny hopping us in the head and leaving us for dead all over a poker chip, proving that gambling is indeed haram. But we would get our get back in due time. The Quran even stating, "And if you punish an enemy, O believers, punish with an equivalent of that which you were harmed. But if you are patient, it is better for those who are patient." We'll remember that verse later when it's time for Benny's reckoning. Once we wake up in Doc Mitchell's house, we begin the easiest pillar, Shahada, the declaration of faith. This is fulfilled simply by uttering the phrase, "There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah." For Fallout, this will be done by typing into the command console, as there is no way of speaking in-game. This completes our first of 4 pillars, 1/4 of the challenge completed already. We tried to make our character as halal looking as possible, and promptly named him Abdullah. Now, for our character build, I chose a speech-heavy courier, because the Quran says, "And speak to him with gentle speech, that perhaps he may be reminded or fear God." So basically, we will avoid bloodshed where possible, and remind the war-raging lunatics of this land they should fear Allah or face his wrath, and for us to only use violence on those that seek to harm us or stand in our way. After we got patched up by the doctor, it's time to do our second part of the challenge, Salah, the daily prayer. See, in Islam, you are to pray 5 times a day facing towards Mecca. These are to be done at certain set times, those times being dawn, midday, afternoon, sunset, and night. These must be done no matter where you are, unless, however, you are jihading, traveling, or in danger. These would then be governed by the laws of Qasr and Yam. Qasr is where you'd shorten the prayers, and Yama is where you would combine the prayers. In my previous video, where I beat Skyrim without breaking the laws of Islam, I performed wudu, a style of prayer using water. But in Fallout, the waters are radiated and impure, and harming oneself is haram. So instead, we'll perform a type of prayer called tayammum, or purification using clean dust or earth. The Quran 5:6 says, "If you find no water, then seek clean earth and wipe your faces and hands with it." To replicate this in Fallout, since we have no animations, we will punch the ground twice and then face north for 10 seconds towards the sky praying. We'll do this 5 times a day, and this will mark our second pillar effectively completed. The Inshallah courier's journey starts in Good Springs, a small little town that is dealing with some bandit issues. A group of ex-convicts called the Powder Gangers are attempting to find and kill this traitor who refused to pay them their toll. So I want to mention something that is very important in Islam. The 5 higher objectives of Sharia, they describe the purpose behind all divine law and serve as a moral guideline to protect and nurture human life. So basically the spirit behind every law. And they are as follows: the preservation of religion, the preservation of life, the preservation of intellect, the preservation of lineage, and the preservation of property. The one relevant here is the preservation of life. The townspeople of Good Springs are peaceful civilians whose lives are being threatened by the Powder Ganger aggressors. So we defend them naturally, as it is our duty, killing the Powder Gangers and making them an enemy of us for the future of this playthrough, as they are clearly non-believers. It was now time to do the third pillar of Islam, Zakat, or charitable giving. In real life, there's some stipulations behind this pillar for Muslims. Zakat means purification because by giving, the believer purifies their wealth from greed, selfishness, and materialism. The Quran states, "Take from their wealth a charity by which you purify them and cause them to increase." Traditionally, this Zakat is around 2.5% of liquid assets of a Muslim's annual wealth. But in this Fallout challenge, we truly want Allah's favor and have easy math, so we'll be donating 25% of our caps earned. We'll do this by placing our caps in this lovely crate in the town of Good Springs, free for any of the poor townsfolk to use. And this now brings us to our first real major gameplay altering law in the challenge, the fourth pillar, known as Ramadan. See, Ramadan is the 9th month of the Islamic lunar calendar, in which Muslims fast from dawn to sunset for 30 days. For our challenge, we'll assume it is Ramadan the entire time, meaning we cannot eat or drink during the daytime. This leaves us with our only form of healing being stim packs. But wait, in Quran 5:91 it says, "Satan only wants to cause between you animosity and hatred through intoxicants and gambling, and to avert you from the remembrance of Allah and from prayer. So will you not desist?" Basically stating that drugs and alcohol are actually haram to participate in. This eliminates the use of jet, psycho, and any other performance-enhancing drugs. However, stim packs will be allowed for this challenge as they are purely medicinal and do not alter our physical or mental capabilities in any way, seeing them as medicine. And one more final thing to mention, seer in Islam is the practice of sorcery, which is very haram. Luckily, Fallout doesn't have magic. However, what it does have is energy and plasma weapons, which for this run we will deem as banned, mostly just to make this run harder. It is now time to do what any Fallout player worth their weight in caps does at the start of the game, trying to run straight to Vegas, because ain't nobody got time to run the long way. I died 6 damn times. Mostly to my own explosives, but eventually I did make it to Vegas, the land of sin. Once in Vegas, our mission was clear. Find the man that left us for dead, Benny. We waltzed into his casino, making sure to avoid all gambling, drinking, and prostitutes. After talking with Benny, I convinced him to ditch his bodyguard so we could talk and settle this man-to-man up in his suite. We let him speak as hearing testimony before judgment is proper, giving him his chance to repent. But his end goal was always power through Vegas. He sought to rule, so what were the odds he would murder others unjustly as a means to an end? I would say highly. And remember, and if you punish an enemy, O believers, punish with an equivalent of that which you were harmed. If you are patient, it is better for those who are patient. We would not be patient this day, punishing Benny with equal force that he did to us, killing him and retrieving what he stole, the platinum chip. And here's a great part to discuss the different endings in Fallout New Vegas. I gave it quite a lot of thought before starting this challenge. See, Fallout New Vegas has 4 distinct endings. Your options are Caesar's Legion, the New California Republic, Mr. House, or Yes Man. Caesar's Legion is the obvious no-no choice. They permit slavery, desecrate the dead, and above all else, idolize Caesar, which is absolutely haram. And practically the #1 cardinal sin in Islam is idol worship. The NCR might seem like a decent choice at first, but they tax the Mojave dry, they abuse the locals, and spread imperialism disguised as peacekeeping. In Islam ethics, the governance is meant to serve the people, not enrich the rulers, so that's out of the question. And then Mr. House, again, is the ultimate form of idolatry of the self. The Quran repeatedly condemns the arrogance of man who think they can live forever or control destiny. Indeed, man transgresses when he sees himself self-sufficient. This leaves our final option being the Yes Man. This is all about free will, responsibility, and moral agency. This perfectly aligns with the concept of stewardship talked about in the Quran. The idea that humans are entrusted with free will under moral duty, but not under domination. So we march our butt up to Benny's old room in the Tops Casino, find the Yes Man, and begin the somewhat long task of completing the game. But before that, there is one thing still lingering in my mind. In order to cleanse New Vegas, I must first get rid of its corrupt dictator, Mr. House. He truly stands as the epitome of a tyrant of sin, ruling the New Vegas Strip and condoning such hedonistic lifestyles. But luckily, getting rid of him was surprisingly easy actually. Since we had the platinum chip and Mr. House himself was expecting us, it was a walk in the park. We ran into his penthouse, unlocked his secret wall, ran past his defenses, and went into his room. We let him out of his pod of immortality, in which he was very displeased. He said he would rather die than be cut off from the mainframe, so we granted his wish, granting him mercy in death. We then uploaded the Yes Man into House's mainframe, giving us full control of his robot army to defend ourselves, and upgrading their weaponry to include rockets now. After this, we get our mission from the Yes Man. it being to meet and greet with every faction to determine who I want to work with, who I want gone, etc, etc. Basically, which factions are halal, haram, or somewhere in between. Each faction had its merits, for the most part, but while the NCR and Legion were already out of the question, we just need to tie up some loose ends by doing a simple quest for each. Though, these loose ends would take some time. First, it was time to visit the Legion. We had a goal from the Yes-Men to install this platinum chip that almost got us killed to upgrade the secret army of Securitrons below the Legion's camp. And this was honestly pretty easy to do as well, as Caesar literally asked me to go in there and destroy it, and I'm a speech expert. Then there were the Boomers and the Brotherhood of Steel, both of which kinda pissed me off by attacking me, but it was mostly in scared self-defense, so we permit them to exist, but we absolutely will not be working with them. Then there's the two other families of Vegas, the Omertas, who run Gomorrah, which is entirely out of the question, as this is literally just a whorehouse. Very haram. The other family being the White Glove Society, which is just kinda weird and super vain, so I just ignored them. They freak me out. The last but not least group is the Great Khans, a tribe of people who have been constantly forced from their home by the NCR and by Mr. House. And the Legion is whispering in their ear, telling them of how to achieve greatness for their tribe again. This quest took a ton of work on my part in staying true to Islam. A little backstory time. The Khans are ruled by a man named Papa Khan. He serves as something similar like a tribal leader. He then has 4 trusted advisors, if you will. These being Regis, Jack, Diane, and Melissa. Regis wanted proof of the Legion's lies, so we had to walk into their camp and steal a handy little book which documented all their enslaved peoples. Was this stealing? Yes, but it was for a good cause, which is actually a very important part of Islam. In Quran 2:173, it is stated, "But whoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it nor transgressing its limit, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful." This verse is often cited by scholars when discussing darura, or necessity. It establishes that in extreme or moral emergencies where harm must be prevented or truth must be upheld, forbidden acts can be temporarily permitted if one's niyyah, or intention, remains pure and the act is limited to what is necessary. So we enlightened Regis on the matter, and he pledged to disavow the allying with the Legion. Next up was the duo of Jack and Diane. These two were operating basically a drugstore, where they sold things like Jet, Psycho, Buff Out, etc. All things that are haram in this challenge. However, using our silver tongue and charm, we convinced them to instead make medicine in the form of stinpacks, turning their talents into good. Which brings up another thing, dawa, which literally means to invite. In 16:125, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in the way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who is strayed from his way, and he is most knowing of who is rightly guided. What we can infer from this is that one of the core principles of Islam isn't just to avoid sin ourselves, but to help guide others out of it, to bring people from darkness into light through wisdom and dawah. After doing so, the duo was easily convinced to oppose the alliance with the Legion. Now just one more advisor to go. But this one would be a bit tricky. Melissa is not at the home base of Red Rock Canyon with the other Great Khans. She's actually out in the field, atop a mountain ridge, surrounded by Deathclaws. If you know anything about Deathclaws in the Fallout world, you know they are assholes. But luckily, a weapon known as the Gauss Rifle is actually really effective against them. Oh wait, but we can't use the Gauss Rifle as it is an energy weapon. Shit. I know I stated earlier that the #1 rule of Islam is to never duck a fade, but there is a caveat, and it's in the shape of a bipedal dinosaur with nothing but violence on its mind. Though eventually we did manage to get past, and Melissa was quite easily convinced as well. With all 4 votes in place, there was one thing left to do. It was time to rage bait the ever-living shit out of Carl. See, Carl is the emissary of the Legion in the Great Khan's camp, and he acts as if the Khans are a great warrior people, comparable to the Legion. But this is all a facade. They think to deceive Allah and those who believe, but they deceive not except themselves and perceive it not. Quran 2:9. To uncover this snake in the grass, we prod at him, questioning the strength of the Legion's warriors, stating the Khans were equals, and he lost it, raging, saying that none are greater than Caesar, again, with the idol worshipping. He sought to attack us, and the Khans were having none of it, all of them turning and shooting him. With the Legion out of the way, I convinced Papa Khan by telling them to head east, out of the Mojave, to reclaim their honor. That pretty much sums up all the damn side missions we had to do, and now it was on to trying to actually finish this challenge and bring peace to this Nevada desert land. Psych! You thought you wouldn't have another stupid side quest to go to a power station to give Vegas full power? Except your stupid ass decided to run through and slaughter the super mutant radio tower camp right next to it? Oh, just me? Crap. I spent the better part of an hour clearing out Nightkin, super mutants, and the like. The only redeeming thing about this whole thing is that we met Raoul the Cool Ghoul. He's a little ugly, but he's pretty alright overall, becoming our token companion for this run. Anyways, We finally figured out where that power station actually was and diverted power away from the NCR to Vegas, taking out the hostile NCR troops in the process that shot us first. So we headed back to the Yes Man to start the actual final mission this time, the Battle of Hoover Dam. This is a bloody fight where we are taking on the Legion alongside our robot army and of course, Raoul the Cool Ghoul. Killing all who opposed us atop the dam, we finally ended up in Caesar's camp, easily mowing through their troops until we found the boss, a man named Legate Lanius. Now he's a really tough fight. In fact, we died about 10 times attempting to blow him up, headshot him, punch him, nothing really worked. So instead, I tried talking to him, as a suave kind of man Abdullah is. And to my surprise, we speech checked him all the way into leaving the Mojave. Now there was just one teensy-weensy little loose end to tie up, the goddamn NCR. We completely ignored them so far really, besides from like a random dialogue to complete the side quest. General Lee Oliver thinks we fought for him, to give control of Hoover Dam over, but he couldn't be further from the truth. As it is stated, they ask you about the spoils of war. Say, the spoils belong to Allah and the Messenger, so fear Allah and set matters right among yourselves. Quran 8:1. So we claimed the dam for Allah. Again, he reflexed our speech checks, threatening to shove our robot's rocket so far up his ass, he eventually caved into our words, marched his butt and the NCR right out of the Mojave as well. Both groups leaving the Mojave in relative peace, and the credits rolled, completing the challenge. As the dust settled, I reflected. We upheld the Sharia as best we could. I followed the pillars outside of Hajj. I prayed, fasted, gave charity, and stayed true to the law. I refused oppression, refused arrogance, and sought balance in the Mojave. And ultimately, I stayed true to the teachings of the Quran, avoiding sin in the land where it would be easiest to follow its prey. We beat Fallout New Vegas in the name of Allah. Inshallah, my friends. Thanks for watching. I want to give a special shout out to both our YouTube members and our Patreon subs. They help support this channel that extra mile.